Because for me, when a day is challenging, it's more productive because it makes you think. Yeah, critical thinking is key. Yeah. So Kenyans should understand that what builds us more is challenges. So challenges are meant to either make you or break you.
Correct.
So when you get a challenging day, that's a very good day because it makes you use your wits. You know, you think deep, you sink and dive in the thought.
That sounds scary, bro.
No, but that's the reality. If you want to make it in life, you don't need to be scared. And,
so give us the details then.
Next time.
We need to know the nitty-gritty. But you know, it's been a long weekend.
Yes.
If you watch the news, clearly, I mean, Imamboya intimidation by government is going down.
Yes.
Jimmy Wanjigi had a day at the DCI. What do you think that means for him? His political ambitions? Is the government intimidated by Jimmy? What are they trying to do?
We also had Maverick
Aoko's. Apparently, she's been released on a bail of about 100,000.
100,000, yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, for me, politically, it's good. You see, we say in politics, publicity is publicity. And one thing is, I think right now, Jimmy Wanjigi is getting free publicity. He's becoming popular.
So they're building his brand.
They're building his brand, you see. That is how it works, you know, how these arrests operate. Today, if those people who didn't know Maverick Aoko, many of them know her right now. But we also need to understand how governments operate. It's the state. The state is an arranged bureaucracy. It's the police, the navy, the army, the court system, and the jail system. So, for me, it's a normal thing.
Why are they targeting these individuals?
It's a normal thing. You see, when you start growing, they'll come after you.
Yeah.
When you become a threat, they'll come after you. Anytime. Not only politically. Even when you make moolah, they'll come after you. Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. You see, there's a saying that says, stones are only thrown to trees that bear fruits. So it's normal.
Yeah.
It's very normal.
So
it's very normal.
Yeah, there's something that stood out for me as well today.
Yes.
There's a guy called, what's his name?
Morara. The senior counsel.
Guy.
Yes.
Morara has been doing some serious auditing when it comes to government projects.
Yes.
And I'm just like, this guy...
he's been mimicking the president on all the projects that he's been launching. Some go as way back as 2018.
Yeah, all the way to South Nyanza.
Exactly.
I mean, very shocking stuff, bro.
Exactly.
I didn't even believe it's that serious, man.
Exactly.
Until I saw the situation on the ground. Are you surprised?
Not very surprised. You know, for you and me, we've been speaking about these things every day. So we know what has been happening on the ground. We know how things were not right. And I told you, we live under what we call the third industrial revolution. And this is a revolution of internetive things. Kenyans are communicating. You know, ask yourself, how does Morara get to know about all those projects?
Exactly.
It's people who tell him. And they tell him, hey, since you've become an advocate for change, there's a project that was launched here, but it never worked. There's a project that was launched there, and it never worked. So it's only that very few people are bold enough to speak up.
Would one call this the revolution or part of the revolution ongoing?
Yeah,
because they said it comes in different ways.
Exactly. And what is happening in Kenya today is what we call the revolution of the mind. There's a revolution in the mind where now political literacy is sinking in. Out of 10 Kenyans out here, 7 to 8 will speak sense to you, which is a good thing.
Correct.
Which is a good thing. You see, development begins with the change of mentality, and it's basic civic education. When I know my rights, when I understand what is right for a country and for leadership and as a citizen, that's how development begins. You know, there's no way. That's why there's a famous saying, I like using it. They say, you can take a donkey to the river, but you can't force it to drink water. So Kenyans should understand that for them to experience change, change must first begin with us. And the change is attained first by, number one, political literacy and civic education. Because you don't talk to someone about empowerment, and yet they don't understand what empowerment is. You know, it's like I tell you about money, I want to make you rich, and I don't explain to you what money is. It's a sham. It won't help you in any way. So that's the same as development. So we are in that process. And growth is a gradual process. We are changing, we are evolving, and we are growing. So it's a good thing.
So you're saying, change, for real, you can tell there's an evolution. We're transitioning to another dimension.
Most definitely.
When it comes to now opposition politics, we know where obviously we're expecting this Azimio, whatever, this coalition to hold the government into account, but Kenyans don't seem like they're satisfied with whatever Azimio or ODM are doing. And now we're seeing younger Kenyans going to the ground. Malizima projects supposedly they're supposed to, and now they say, guys, what is this? Calling out the president. Why do you think there's so much told projects across the country? And and then you have a situation where the president is launching 2 projects like twice. Mojas usually launched in 2022. Again, he's doing it this year again.
Others were even launched in the previous government.
How is this the norm?
It's how Kenyans behave. You see, what systems focus on is anatomy or study of human behavior. So what the government does is they try to understand what Kenyans like and how Kenyans are. You see, Kenyans are people, as long as they are promised, it calms down the storm. We are used to accepting promises. And that's why a promise after, it's a normal. Even you and I, you know very well that out here, if someone asks you for money and you tell him, no, I might give it to you on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
At least you've given him hope.
Yes, correct.
So with launching these projects, it creates hope and makes the political temperatures go down. But in reality, they're forgetting that this is the information era. And whatever goes on the internet, you never forget. I saw people today saying that even the president's Twitter handle, they were trying to delete the old projects when they were being launched. It's because that information was still there. Anything that is up there in the cloud, you can never do away with it.
Yeah.
So the government needs to understand, and I've always said a lot of times that where we are today, I don't think the Kenyans are asking for a lot from the government. Kenyans are just saying, tell us the truth. Tell us we're sick and we need to start taking medicine, and we'll take the medicine. But don't lie to us that we're okay and we know very well we're not okay. So it's a matter of communication. And I think the political class, they have to wake up. They have to wake up. See what Kenyans are doing right now. Kenyans are taking, it's what you call self-preservation. Self-preservation happens when people realize that the government in itself is not in a position to help them solve their problems.
Right.
So we decide now to find ways of surviving. That's why now one of us is always here making noise like Mbogo. Another one is out there like Matara is showing those projects. Another one is speaking about other issues. Because we love this country.
Yeah.
And I would like the government to understand that when people correct you, it's not that people hate you. You see, this country is for us, all of us. And the power is transient. You're there today. Tomorrow it might be Kevin or my brother here or me. You never know.
Correct.
So they need to understand that our key objective or goal is and has always been and must always be to leave Kenya better than we found it.
Yeah.
That should be at the core. The rest is not against individuals. It's against time. Because if I come and lie to you that I'm going to do this project for you, and I know very well I'm not going to do it, it's not that you're fooling me. You're also fooling yourself and your generation and the generation of this country.
Yeah.
You see, the moment you realize that in life there is enough for everything, that is when change begins.
Yeah.
Kevo.
There's enough for everything.
There's
for
enough
everyone.
you can dress, there's enough you can drive, there's enough you can eat, there's enough
for everyone.
And the moment you realize that in this life, everything you're accumulating, you will leave them here, that's the day you change and realize that the greatest wealth is service to humanity.
Yeah, man. When you speak like this, I'm reminded of Raila Odinga. Service to Kenyans. He's done it all. Kenyans were happy for him, have always been proud of what he's done for us, especially when it comes to our democratic ideals.
Yes.
But now, fast forward 2024, younger Kenyans are feeling like they don't even relate to the old man.
Yes.
One on damn, like
we've
what are you up to?
We've actually even had times where he's been told to step aside.
Exactly.
By the younger generation.
Let's take over. You don't get it. You're not evolving with the times. Raila is giving us mixed signals. And I said, it's Uhuru who told me to talk to Ruto.
I'm not here.
Yeah, Mara Ruto reached out.
Yes.
Mara, I'm not in the government. What's going on? I know there's a time you actually were affiliated with Raila. You guys kind of worked together.
Of course. He was my party leader.
Yeah.
He's been my political mentor.
So him better than we do here.
Yeah, I'm one person who knows and understands Raila's school of thought in politics. One thing people should know, number one, Raila loves this country. But politically, his interests come first. He loves the country, but politically, his interests come first. Now, it's because Kenyans don't read. And I say the biggest problem, and the colonialists usually say, if you want to beat a black man, and if you want to hide information from a black man, keep it in a book.
In the books, yeah.
Because they don't read. You see, whatever is happening today is not news, or it's not something new. This is something that has happened again and again.
Right.
Whatever ODM and Raila has done today, this is the same thing he has replayed with what you call the 1997 IPPG deal. IPPG deal, it was the Inter-Party Parliamentary Group, where prominent politicians, including Raila himself, decided to come together to combat this leaderless kind of revolution that was emanating in 1997. And their excuse was, we have to come together and work with Moi so that we don't, to prevent this what we call bloodshed in the country.
Okay.
But in reality, it was because of political interest, because at that time there was some kind of revolution which was emanating, and people were saying enough is enough.
Right.
So I have always explained Raila's political game in a very clear manner. So in 1997, Baba Raila Amolo Odinga he vied for presidency. He did not make it. But because of that IPPG deal, which was a handshake in a design, he went into government. In 2002, he supported Kibaki. 2 years later, after going into Kibaki's government, he went against Moi when Moi decided to choose Uhuru Kenyatta as the presidential candidate. So he decided to go and support Moi Kibaki. You remember the Kibaki-Tosha analogy.
Correct.
So he joined government. 3-4 years down the line, he had a fight with Kibaki. What happened? He vied in 2007. The elections were stolen. He became number 2. We all believe it was stolen. As in, it was very clear.
We can work with that.
We can work with that. Any Kenyan is comfortable to say, hii walibia baba. You understand?
Yeah.
So what did he do? He went and had his second handshake. Remember, the first one was with Moi.
Yeah.
The second one now in 2007, after the skirmishes, he did another handshake with Kibaki. 3-4 years down the line, fought with Kibaki. Went and vied with Kalonzo. They lost to Uhuru. 3-4 years down the line, Uhuru bet him in 2017. They did another secret handshake in the name of Government of National Unity. So how many handshakes are those? 3.
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
3. Correct.
What we are seeing now is the fourth handshake.
Yeah.
So what is new, Kevo? It's the same game, but different timings.
No, but he knows it's unpopular, especially we saw, matters corruption.
Yes.
The opposition wasn't really functional
And
when he had a handshake with Uhuru. Yeah. So what does
and
that
as we
mean?
move with times, it also gets very unpopular.
You would imagine that he probably consulted with his party members, even with the ground. And Raila should know that Kenyans didn't actually want him to shake Ruto's hand. So why would he just decide to go ahead with this quote-unquote handshake?
No, but you see, at the end of the day, Raila is a politician. Now, I think a few months ago, I was with you, and I told you, both of them are playing politics.
Okay.
But they need each other. As much as they all have different schools of thought, but they need each other. William Samoei Ruto, the president, needs Raila, and Raila needs Ruto. Remember, Raila is vying for the AUC seat. And for him to get that soft spot, he needs to have the favor of the president, because he's fronted by the nation. When he goes to campaign, he does not campaign as Raila Odinga, he campaigns as Kenya. The ticket is Kenya.
His arms are twisted.
Yes, so that's number 1. Number 2, Raila is a very smart politician. What Kenyans don't understand is that this arrangement is not an arrangement that just happened because of this Gen Z movement and protests.
Yeah.
Few months ago, I mentioned to you and I told you, one of the agreements with the NADCO report, amongst the things they were discussing, one of the key issues was creation of those positions. So the arrangement to have a coalition government was decided a long time ago. When they decided to do the NADCO discussions at Bomas, they had already decided we're going to work together.
Yeah.
So what happened is when these protests came up, it's speeded up the process, and it made Raila now have an opportunity to go and have the handshake alone.
Wow.
So he's gone for the handshake alone.
Yeah.
Today, the entire Azimio brigade is falling apart. We had 2 days ago Eugene Omalo saying they want Raila to resign from Azimio and they're not ready to work with him. Same as Martha Karua, same as Kioni, same as the rest of the Azimio brigade. And I told you the same game that was played by the BBI agenda is the same game they're playing Raila with this AUC game. And I told you, by the time Raila goes for elections next year, he will lose that position. And number two, he will have lost his entire political base and political friends. You see, when you're going for a political war, you need to build what you call the chest of war. So his chest of wars were Kina Kalonzo, Eugene, you know, the troop they vied with in the last elections. So Ruto knows, if I keep this Mzee busy with these AUC campaigns, and I force him to come work with me, number one, he will lose all his soldiers. Yeah. That is happening.
Oh, yes. Like he did initially.
Like he did initially with the BBI. You understand? Yes.
Oh, yes.
With the BBI. So it's politics. So Mzee is also losing on the other end. But Mzee is also not dumb. He's also playing politics.
Okay.
In what aspect? Number one, Raila has consolidated power in ODM again. He has remained the main Rambo as usual.
Yeah, he was slowly losing relevance. Now he's back.
All the people who are potential threats to him, the people who were talking about taking over ODM after Raila Odinga was Ali Hassan Joho, Oparanya, Mbadi, what's the other name, Wandai, and Babu Owino. Those were the possible candidates that were saying we have to take over when Raila goes for the AUC seat in Ethiopia. Yeah. So what has he done? He's sacrificed all of them. So they should not think that they've gotten positions.
Exactly.
Because the first thing that happened, they were told they have to resign. And it is constitutional. You have to resign.
Wow.
And the day they announced that they were mentioned and announced as ministers, the first person to come out and call them out was Edwin Sifuna, who is the Secretary General. Raila in himself, his first statement, he said, they went without his blessings. Those were independent decisions. So what does that mean? Raila knows very well that there is no any difference these guys are going to make. I'll tell you, from last elections till today, it's been about 731 days, 732 days from last elections. To the next elections is about 1,097 days. So if you remove campaign period of about 6 months, so it's almost another 750 days. So if the government has not done anything in 730 days, so what big do you think these 4 people are going to do? So and they were given the most critical seats.
Correct.
Most critical seats.
Yeah, man.
And what has Raila done? He's rebranded his ODM with new faces, young faces.
Women in leadership.
Yes, and he's sent out all these troops.
So what's his plan? What do you think is going on in Raila's mind? Because I'm thinking, first of all, his age. He's getting very old right now. And then, so are we expecting him to be on the ballot? Is that what you're telling us?
I'll tell you 101% Raila will be in the ballot in 2027.
Because I actually even saw something about that today. Something like him being in that AU position does not stop his political ambitions around.
And he's always said it.
Yes.
And why do you think, if he was sure he was going, why will he dismantle ODM and remove all the threats? It's because he knows he'll be there.
So he's not going to support Kalonzo?
No, definitely.
That one is out of the equation.
No, he can't.
What?
Forget, he can't.
Yeah. So
and you see, for him, he knows very well, even if his 4 people do not perform, his hands are out. That's why Raila today, his leg is in, tomorrow it's out.
Yeah.
You know, and he'll blame Uhuru, he will say it's this other person who called me and stuff. So it is not pertaining him. What he'll do, he'll just say, I gave them some of my men, I thought they will perform, and they've not performed.
You know, one thing I like about this show, we can actually speculate.
Yes.
That's why I like it being at this hour, 7 to 10.
It's very much allowed.
Very much. What do you think Uhuru's position is? What do you think is going on in his mind? Because Raila actually, earlier said, it's Uhuru who asked me to talk to Ruto. Do you think that's a fact?
To be very honest, politically.
Considering even the fact that he's the chairman of Azimio.
Politically, you will never know. Now, number one. Most of Uhuru's lieutenant, I saw Kioni, I've seen Ngunjiri, the former MP of Bahati, I've seen the former governor of Nakuru. They've all disputed that statement, saying it is a lie.
But how would you use, Raila would not just throw around.
They're saying it's a lie.
Given his relationship with Uhuru as well.
He can't just use Uhuru's
name. But you see, up to now, Uhuru has not spoken. So we cannot ascertain whether it's a lie or not a lie.
Correct.
And because from me, speaking from my own school of thought and my point of view, Uhuru is also one of the biggest businessmen in this country.
Yes.
And he knows if this country is burnt to ashes, he is one of the biggest losers.
Correct.
Do you get it?
I agree.
So it might be true also. So it is until Uhuru speaks, then we'll know who is saying the truth. Yeah.
A coalition between Raila and Ruto would be lethal, man, come 2027. And then we have, on the other hand, we have Gen Z. Gen Z are massive. They're about probably even 5, 7, 8 million. They're the majority.
Actually,
right?
they're about 70% of the total.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whoever Gen Z back, according to me, would easily go to State House.
Yes.
Would that be enough to take down a coalition between Raila and Ruto? A Gen Z backed candidate?
Yeah, it's possible. But you see, I've always insisted, and I say, in a democratic country, people should understand that change can only be attained through a democratic process. And the democratic process in politics is the electoral process. So it is until these young people, we are calling the Gen Zs and the millennials, specifically Gen Zs, because the majority of them are the ones who didn't vote and have not registered to vote. It is until they understand that they have to be actively involved in the electoral process. So it begins with civic education. They must, number one, they must understand. I'll tell you, you're dealing with the government. And that's why I told you the other day, fighting a system that has structures and you're a system that you don't have structures. Like the Gen Zs say, they're leaderless, they're formless, they're faceless, they're partyless. You cannot beat a government.
We can't, yeah.
It's a state. It's an arranged bureaucracy. It's the police, the navy, the army, the court system, and the jail system. And when the state feels threatened, it will come for you. That's the reality. So this is a democratic country. People should understand that in a democratic country, change can only be gotten through the democratic process. So how do we go about the democratic process? The democratic process is the electoral process. So number one, young people should focus on getting ID cards and registering as voters. Remember, in the last elections, we had 8 million Kenyans who did not vote.
Yeah, there was a lot of voter apathy, a lot.
8 million who had votes and did not vote. We had another 8 million who had IDs, but they did not register to be eligible voters. Now, come 2027, we're going to have another 4 million because every year we get a million young guys from high school. So that's about 20 million people.
It's a lot.
So you see, that in itself is enough, but we need to sensitize and do a lot of civic education so that they understand issues is not about Ruto must go, and I've always said it.
Correct.
You see, one thing we need to understand, whether we like it or not, he's the president of the day. And because this is a democratic country, the best way and the only way, in my own perspective, to bring about change is through the democratic process. You see, if we are pushed to ban and fight and ban this country, all of us are going to lose.
Yeah.
A majority of us are the ones who will lose in this country. We don't have anywhere else to go. So it should start with them identifying electoral places where they will vote. They make sure they have their ID cards, they register to vote, and they have the rights to vote. That is the voting cards. Number two, it is very important also for young, vibrant, young men and women who understand matters to do with leadership. Because leadership is not just about anyone who maybe has money can go and vie, anyone who is popular can go and vie. No, it's having the know-how.
What do you feel? What's your feel on the ground when it comes to young Kenyans and civic engagements? Do you think we're even ready to engage in electioneering processes really enough far so we can actually create change? Are we there yet? Are we woke? Are we angry enough?
No, I think it's coming up. As I said earlier, political literacy is sinking in.
Yeah.
Because when you read the comments and when you meet, even I've told you, go out here and speak to 10 Kenyans, even young people, 7 to 8 will speak sense to you. We've reached a point where people are even reading the Constitution. We've reached a place where people are quoting the finance bill, the Constitution. We are there. We are appreciating it. Yeah. So all you need to do, people who can communicate, and it's an obligation to all of us. This is our patriotic duty.
Right.
Let no one lie to you that there's a Kenyan who's special more than you. We all have to undertake this duty as Kenyans, because what we are fighting for is not even for ourselves. All of us here are survivors.
Yes.
We can even be taken to Afghanistan and we'll survive. But what about our children? What about the future generation of this country? What country are we leaving them with? And you see, young people should understand that it is time they take over the mantle. And taking over the mantle does not necessarily mean youthful leaders. No.
It means competent leaders.
Competent meritocracy. We reward based on merit. If we have someone who's good in sciences, let that person guide us in sciences. If we have someone who's good in business, let that person lead the business docket. Merit, let's reward on basis of merit, not tokenism and political rewards or tribal rewards or regional rewards. That is where we go wrong. I've always said, this government has focused on 3 failures. Number 1, the government is focusing on creating more poverty instead of creating or producing wealth. Number 2, the government is determined to create what you call, to undermine what you call free thought instead of providing and embracing critical thinking. You see, strong institutions and strong countries are built by strong thinkers and strong minds. And that goes back to meritocracy. We need to get the best brains. It's about know-how. Running a country is not just about you knowing how to speak on top of a roof of a car or maybe go to interviews and speak. It's about the know-how. How do I take the country forward economically? And the biggest challenge is always the economic liberation. And that should be the key for any success of any country.
You mentioned meritocracy.
Yes.
I'm thinking of the broad-based government.
Yes.
That the president is really justifying. Do you think these are the right guys for the job? Okay, even if it's like, he's saying it's going to unite the country, Even ODM, for example, are these the best brains that ODM could have come up with? Like you said earlier, this was just about Raila,
Yeah, you see.
And his ambitions.
And that's why I'm saying the biggest problem begins with giving the right jobs to the wrong people. Now, we are doing it politically for political gains and for cooling political temperatures, but not to solve the problems the country is undergoing right now. Because tell me one policy that these people have brought to tell you and I that things will get better. Just yesterday or 2 days ago, we've had the president and Mbadi speak of he wants to bring back the finance bill.
Yes.
And when did that statement come? It came immediately after he met the IMF group.
IMF guys.
And that's why I've always insisted we need to understand that we have a government that has become subservient or become a full puppet of the West. And we have to speak about these things.
Great.
This is our country. We don't need to lie to each other about what is happening. We know very well that IMF have given conditions, and they had already given conditions. And immediately this finance bill was rejected, they've been a bit adamant in releasing the loan, the 1.4 billion. Now, we are told if they don't release that money by end of the month, the dollar will shoot to about 160 to 170. So I think that is why now Mbadi is saying I have to to bring back about 49 out of the 58 clauses. Bring back the taxes like the eco levy and all those taxes. It is not him.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that our country and our government has been held hostage as Kenyans. So how do we come out of this situation?
Yeah.
Let it first begin with civic education.
Civic education.
Yes.
Yes, because I'm actually thinking about that, and I now get to wonder, does this all negate what the financial bill, reject financial bill protests were all about? Lives were lost. Are we looking at a time where we are going to get back to that? Because, of course, having Mbadi say that 49 out of 50 something will be back, does that mean we are looking at going back to where we just from?
Now, I'll tell you, in my understanding of geopolitics, and I've said it again and again.
Yes.
The globalists who are pushing these agendas in this country are spearheading us to one direction. And they want chaos in this country. You see, the IMF and the World Bank knew very well that Kenyans are not comfortable with the Finance Bill 2024. Even before it was passed, Kenyans, from the public participation and the professionals, everyone advised the government that this thing is not workable. We've seen professionals, even the government advisors, and even from central bank, who say raising taxes is not a solution to solve our problem or collect more tax from the people.
Yes.
You get it? But they forced us to take it down our throat. They knew very well that if this thing passes, the next thing will be chaos. And they want to bring it back. And let me ask you, when you hear the president speak up and confront a foundation like the Ford Foundation, do you think the president is addressing Ford Foundation? No, he's addressing the American government.
Okay.
He's telling them, stay away from our sovereignty. And he was very categorical. He said people who are interfering with the sovereignty of our country should either shape up or leave. That was a very strong statement. So I want the government to rethink. You see, we Kenyans, I know we are people who are understanding. There's no problem we've never faced as a country. We don't mind the president coming to us and saying, this is the situation. I'm not in a position to bring in new development projects in this country because of A, B, C, D. Kindly give me time. In the next term, we are going to bring in, but let me settle the scores with our debt situation and everything. We will allow it.
Then why is it seemingly so difficult?
You see, the problem is they're practicing what you call escapism. They're escaping from the reality. They're escaping from the reality. No one is creating a treatment for the disease. They're just, soothing the wound. No one is treating the wound.
Yeah.
So that's why I've told you, there is no any policy we can see clearly that will enable you and I to have what you call economic liberation.
Right.
And every decision that is made in this country economically are decisions made by the West. They're made by the IMF and the World Bank. So we are in problems.
Let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll further this conversation. We're also going to cruise the comments. Our power player for this evening is Honorable Steve Mbogo.
Interesting conversations.
What? It's crazy, man. And I love the comments. Tutazipitia in just a bit, like I said. Right now, though, I've got some number one. This is John Legend in Kanye West, wrapping up this hour in style. Tony Kazi, good evening, guys.
I promise not to do it.